And welcome to Tom Myers versus the rest of the world. A lot's going on. Joe Biden received a major endorsement in his re-election campaign from the Kennedy family. They endorsed him over their own relative, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. It has to sting for RFK Jr. to not receive the endorsement of his family. It probably would have been even worse if the Kennedy family had made the endorsement in a hotel kitchen.
Oh.
Two congressmen, Mike Gallagher of Wisconsin and Jake LaTurner of Kansas, announced they will not seek re-election to their seats. That makes 21 House Republicans to date who are not seeking re-election for various reasons, including some committee chairpersons. I suppose that saves them the trouble of whether or not they will die in the mass suicide pact that Republicans will undertake should Trump lose again in November. Donald Trump is now on trial for his election interference case when he paid two women with whom he had an affair to keep quiet so it wouldn't ruin his chances of winning the presidency in 2016. It's the first criminal trial of a sitting president, and Trump has been making statements throughout the trial outside the courtroom, including, among other things, that the courtroom is freezing. The courtroom is supposed to be chilly. That way it keeps all the unprocessed McDonald's food that's still lodged in his colon fresh. News reports say that during the trial, Trump was fixated on a closed caption image of himself watching the closed caption screen during the trial, which is quite fitting because, just like a moth against a light bulb, Trump was repeatedly banging his head against that screen. South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem is facing backlash after she wrote that she killed her kid's dog because it wasn't behaving. I think they should put up a statue of Kristi Noem under the condition that they allow dogs to take a dump on it. And as a penance, Kristi Noem is the only one who should have to clean it up. Tucker Carlson said in an interview that the theory of evolution has been disproven, a conclusion he reached when he looked in the mirror every morning.
Yeah.
Speaking of Alex Jones, he came out and said that the "I will eat your ass" meme he posted was a joke. He didn't really mean it. Just when I thought he finally found a way to get me to be a subscriber. And on that note, on with the show. Please join me in welcoming Jeff Hysen, Gina Brown, and Polite Kitty.
Hey, Tom.
Hey, Tom.
Everyone, welcome back. What's everyone been up to lately?
Well, Tom, a lot of people have held you in contempt, but not in the way Trump was held in contempt, right?
Well, I mean, like Trump, I too don't have enough money to pay those fines that he's been racking up. So that's a very fitting analogy, Jeff. Thank you.
Oh my gosh. Been a good week for me. No seizures for me. Yay! Seizure free since March 11th.
Awesome. Very good.
Gina or Polite, are you dog owners?
Of course.
Children have dogs at my ex-husband's house, and that's a new addition. They got them like about a month ago. So
you've gotten mad at the dogs, but not that mad. Not Kristi Noem mad.
I was about to say the one good thing about I don't think it's good, but now South Dakota is being talked about. Who else would? Why else would we talk about that state were it not for her? So.
And Mount Rushmore and Wall Drugs. That's about it.
What gets me even more about this story is the kicker to it is after she dragged poor Cricket to the gravel pit and shot it, she went home and her daughter asked, "Where's Cricket?" So this is a family pet. It's even worse when you think about it that way.
Yeah.
And the worst part about it is that she couldn't even use the excuse, "Oh, it went to a farm," because she lived on a farm. So there's we sent it to a different farm.
Yeah.
So I guess my question is this the new standard? If you're untrainable and people hate you, can we shoot you?
Why do you think I don't do live shows anymore? I'm amazed it hasn't already happened.
I don't know about the untrainable, but it has been done. If you're hated, you might get shot, right? And killed. It doesn't usually people put dogs on a pedestal and humans a little bit below them. But in this case, I guess she didn't.
So the real question is will it no pun intended, but will it kill her career?
No.
Well,
I mean, there's always like there's always going to be people who make excuses for that. Unfortunately, I mean, people like 47% of voters supported Mitt Romney, even though he put a dog in a crate and tied it to the roof of his car. Like there's been, and it's only gotten worse since then, unfortunately.
I think she's lost her shot at. I did. I know. I didn't mean that. I did. I'm not even sure. She's lost her shot at the VP slot, I think. But beyond that, no, I think she'll be fine.
That, Gina, is the sort of play on words that is very unacceptable on this podcast. So watch yourself.
Unless Tom doesn't.
This episode covers the unfortunate and tragic events that occurred with the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore when a ship hit it, causing the bridge to buckle and collapse into the water. You have to say our thoughts and prayers are with with the victims of the accident. And at the time of the accident, said workers on the bridge were repairing potholes overnight for what would have been another heavy commute the following morning. Unfortunately, as much shit as we give highway construction and refurbishment during the process, we don't pay homage enough to the people who work tirelessly, anonymously, and without thanks in some cases, to make sure we're driving on safe and navigable roads. Reportedly, the workers who died were trying to get other vehicles off the bridge in the process before the ship's collision with said bridge. The irony is that the workers on the Key Bridge who died were the ones who saved other potential injuries and deaths from late-night commuters who would otherwise have been on that bridge at the time of collapse. One resident of a town that relies on the Key Bridge said that it's going to be a long road ahead, which, unfortunately, is the worst analogy to use, considering said long road doesn't exist anymore. If anything, a long drive off a short pier is more fitting. Joining us on this episode to go ahead and discuss the Key Bridge collapse and its implications, I can't think of anybody more suited for this discussion, someone more ideal to the Baltimore area than my good friend. Ladies and gentlemen, big round of applause, show some love for the one, the only, Jim Meyer.
Wow.
Wow, I want to get to know this guy. He sounds amazing.
Jim, welcome to the show, man. Thank you so much for coming on. Finally.
It's Tom Myers and Jim Meyer, the great comedy Myers of Maryland.
Which is why we're still stuck here.
Yeah.
I couldn't think of anyone else I wanted to bring on this episode to discuss this topic other than you. Like, you're probably the best representative of the city of Baltimore and the surrounding area. How are local residents taking it?
Yeah, it was a shock. I was actually out of the country when it happened and heard it on the news in Costa Rica, of all places. People asked me about it there, and I couldn't fathom. People were like, "What about the bridge collapse?" And I couldn't even fathom that it was the Key Bridge. I was like, "What are you talking about? What bridge in Baltimore that could collapse?"
Yeah. Yeah.
People are shocked. People are emotional. Like, this city's taken a lot of hits the last several years, and living in Baltimore's never been easy, but it feels like it's been an extra lot lately, and this was just one more thing. And there's the loss of life, which is tragic, and I mean that sincerely. There's I work in the trade center downtown, and every day I go out to 21 and look out at the progress of the cleanup, and it's just heartbreaking to see Baltimore Harbor, which once was like the central node of shipping in this country, at one point long ago. But still an incredibly important, just completely shut down with this hulking wreck and the skeleton of the bridge peeking out from the ocean or from the bay. And it's just, people are people are moving on. It's a bridge, but especially people who depended on it. And, I grew up near it and I remember when it opened and, I wrote a story that started, one of my first magazine story was actually started on the bridge, so it's a loss. It's a big part of the skyline and it's just another kick in the teeth for the town and, being the butt of national jokes and, it's not what we need right now,
I remember when I got the text, because I get all sorts of local alerts because I live in the area, and I'm waking up. It was really early in the morning, and I haven't had my coffee yet. I could barely open my eyes, and I get a traffic alert saying traffic diverted because of Key Bridge collapse. I thought the bridge didn't fucking collapse. It's like it got something like some part of it like went, or some part of it has to be closed and whatnot. I was like, you didn't want to believe it when you heard about it. And then, so I'm looking at this and I'm thinking to myself, yeah, the bridge didn't collapse. What are they? They're making a big deal out of nothing. And then when I saw the video that they put out and I saw everything go down in the water, and I thought it was just that oh shit moment. And like driving around the area a lot, I think that this is going to cause so much inconvenience for some people, because like the only other way to get through the Baltimore area is to go through, but we have two other ways to go through there, but they're both tunnels. They go underwater. If you're transporting hazardous substances, they can't go through tunnels, so they have to go all the way around the Baltimore Beltway, and that adds to the traffic problems that are already
go all the way around the Baltimore
rush
Beltway.
hour. Yeah.
The Baltimore Beltway doesn't go all around right now.
Yeah.
It stops. Yeah.
Sort of a strange thing to think about. I wonder if Baltimore's pants will fall down.
Oh, it already has. I mean, like collectively, that's part of the wardrobe.
Baltimore wears pants.
We're a fancy place.
Life will be very different for everyone who lives around and commutes on the roads in the areas around Baltimore City for months, maybe years to come. However, as residents of a city accustomed to frequent detours and lengthy commutes owing to disruptions and gridlock, we have become resigned to it, to the point where we say, fuck it, I don't need to sleep anyway. I'm having too much fun working and hoping for death. In this clip from a CBS News report, we get a look at not only the cleanup efforts of the bridge, but also the impact on small businesses in the area.
Crews in Baltimore have opened a second temporary channel to help with wreckage removal and to allow small boats to bypass the Francis Scott Key Bridge collapse site. Meantime, we're getting a look at the wreckage in the Patapsco River. Chris Van Cleve is in Baltimore and has the latest.
New sonar images show what can't be seen from the surface. Up to 90% of the Francis Scott Key Bridge sunk to the bottom of the shipping channel, leaving a maze of twisted, mangled steel and concrete. Work made more challenging by the storm pounding the eastern U.S. Tuesday.
The wreckage on the bottom of the 50-foot channel is far more extensive than we could have imagined.
But signs of progress. The first ship passed through one of two temporary channels now open. A larger third one is planned, but none will be able to handle large cargo ships, leaving one of the country's biggest ports largely shut down and 8,000 jobs in limbo. It is a high priority for the Army Corps of Engineers and the Coast Guard to get that third temporary channel open, because that will allow smaller commercial vessels access to the port. And the governor says each one of those ships that gets in is responsible for about 100 longshoreman jobs at the port. This won't let big cargo ships in. It's only going to be about 24, 25 feet deep. So as compared to the 50 feet they need to get the big cargo containers in, but it will allow some more traffic in and out for vessels that are bigger than a tugboat and a barge.
It's been a little quiet.
Vinny's Cafe relies on those port workers. Fabrizio Scotto is the manager.
It's like a chain effect, really, not just us, all the businesses around are, I'm sure, are really feeling it.
Dozens of local businesses are already applying for low-interest loans of up to $2 million to cover lost revenues stemming from the bridge collapse.
We can try to provide some measure of certainty at a time that just feels very uncertain.
While the NTSB investigation is expected to take 12 to 24 months, the Singapore-based owner of the cargo ship Dolly that struck the bridge last week filed a motion in federal court asking a Baltimore judge to rule it's not liable for any loss or damage from the fatal crash and destruction of the Key Bridge.
I mean, that was a little bit of what we were discussing earlier, where it's not even at the point where that report was released. I don't think a week had gone by, and already the shipping company was looking to evade responsibility. There's all this shift of blame going around, which unfortunately is par for the course when things like this happen.
Yeah, the litigation's going to be endless. I think the state's going after them. They've already preemptively tried to say that they're not liable, but this is going to keep going and going.
Okay, but so Jeff, on that legal front, so in general, don't all of these companies have insurance, right? So the ship maker, or is it even the people who were driving the ship? Like, don't they all have insurance such that it could cover disasters?
They should, yes.
Then why would they even need to litigate? Like, they could just say insurance will take care of it.
Well, what insurance takes care of is another question.
Yeah,
does it cover just the damage to the boat? Does it fix the bridge? Does it cover the livelihoods lost?
Right, and it may not cover negligence. They may say that the actions of the company were so egregious that they were outside the boundaries of the insurance.
And the FBI has been there investigating for possible criminal action. So,
right, yeah, if the ship company knew or should have known that this was going to happen, then the insurance company's not going to want to pay.
Oh, well, okay. Yeah.
And then maritime law is also weird and international.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
I was just about to ask about that because this is happening on water, and this sounds like this boat was not even from this area. So that must provide like a whole other issue and level of chaos.
Right, it does.
Where was the Dolly flagged?
I think it was a Singapore ship.
Yeah, that's what they said. It was from Singapore.
Was the ship, but then Maersk, wasn't it Maersk was the contents on the ship? So it doesn't matter who owns, like, I mean, I guess it gets confusing because I would be like, well, it's Maersk is stuff. So who's getting their stuff to Baltimore?
Well, there's one company that's saying, okay, this ship needs to go here, and here's the route that it takes. And now everybody has to keep their fingers crossed, like when a ship doesn't lose power, like what happened here, and that when people go over a bridge and they see a ship coming for the bridge, that they're not going to they don't have to worry now that something similar is going to happen.
Right.
Does everybody know why it's called the Francis Scott Key Bridge?
Yes.
The Fort McHenry is right there where the Battle of Baltimore, the defense of Baltimore took place. And Francis Scott Key was in a truce boat with the British fleet during the bombardment of Baltimore and wrote the poem, Defense of Baltimore, I think it's called, that became the national anthem. And every year, I probably won't do it this year, but every year the Coast Guard puts out the Star-Spangled Buoy, which is this beautiful red, white, and blue buoy that supposedly marks the place where Key was during the battle, and it's about 100 yards from the bridge, But
They'll
that's
probably
why
do
it's
something.
called that.
Yeah, they'll probably do something similar this year to it, just not.
Oh, well, maybe not in the future, I'm sure they will.
Oh, yeah.
I wonder what they should name it. I feel like Anthem Bridge might be good. I really want the Thurgood Marshall Johnny Unitas Memorial Bridge.
There you go.
Maybe
Those are two great Baltimoreans that everybody loves.
It's certainly be a 180 from Francis Scott Key.
Yeah, Key was kind of a scumbag.
Yeah. He was. So I'm fine. You know, the bridge is the bridge, right? The name of the bridge is troubling for me, but the bridge is the bridge, right?
The Ray Lewis Bridge. Because if anybody has bounced back, if any group of people have an identity unique to any other market or demographic, it's the resilient people of the greater metropolitan area of Baltimore, Maryland. The other day, I drove by a crab shack that had 3 separate awnings, each with one word encouraging customers to come in for a crab feast. Crack, eat, and smile. I pity anyone not from the area driving in the opposite direction who reads those awnings as smile, eat crack. What they don't know is that in the greater Baltimore metro area, that idea holds a lot of appeal. To say that the Francis Scott Key Bridge is a lifeline for residents and businesses as it pertains to commerce is an understatement. While traffic around major cities is not a new phenomenon, the sudden closure of such a main thoroughfare creates commuting issues of biblical proportions, as local residents express in this clip.
This stretch of North Point Boulevard in Dundalk looked more like a parking lot at times Tuesday morning. As cars inched forward, we caught Greg after driving in from Pasadena.
I used the Key Bridge every morning, and I would have used it that morning. And it has added this morning an hour to my trip.
Added time was a common thread for several drivers we met.
I came from out of the city, so it makes sense as to why every light was backed up. Like going to Essex or Dundalk, every light was backed up.
The rain only made the added traffic worse. Drivers say flooded roads were a common obstacle.
They actually had a crew at 95 and 295 cleaning out the gutters in the mix of heavy traffic, and they were getting sprayed by every car.
Not to mention reckless driving.
Some people don't know how to drive, and some people drive too fast, and you just got to be careful out here when it rains.
The Key Bridge used to handle around 30,000 trips a day. Tuesday gave a look at the new normal without it. And drivers say it's going to be rough until whenever a new bridge is built.
Last week the traffic wasn't bad. So this morning and the rain, I can see where it's going to be incredibly bad.
I like how whenever people want to get like as diverse an opinion, as diverse a group as possible, you can't see this because it's an audio podcast, but I'll probably post the video later. The one place you can always count on where people have an opinion in the Baltimore area is a Royal Farms. That's why I always say Royal Farms is better than Wawa. That's why, that's why more than half of these clips they're interviewing people. It's at a Royal Farms.
Blue.
I had my last job interview at a Royal Farms.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you eat the chicken while you were doing it?
Yeah, I ate a whole bucket. That impressed them.
I'm just liking, okay, I have to giggle because the whole clip is raining and everyone's complaining about the rain and driving in the rain. And I'm like, I do this at least 340 days a year, right?
Right. But also, yeah, I guess the focus of that one was about now that the bridge is gone, how long is it going to take? But yeah, that's all they talked about. But also that's almost normal in the DMV and the corridor between DC and Baltimore. That's normal too. So I guess they were accustomed to having a bit of an easier commute, that the people that they spoke to. Yeah, it doesn't strike me as odd either.
Just like I see where people in Los Angeles, they're not used to weather below 70 degrees, whereas to us, it's no big thing. And it's like people in this area drive like shit anyway. So you add any kind of weather to it, it's gonna create a hassle.
I think it's funny because that's what I was about to say, that everybody says that, and that woman said, one of the women, one was Dundalk, and I need a translator, but the other woman was saying that she nobody knows how to drive, people drive crazy. And I'm just thinking, everybody says that. Where doesn't anybody drive crazy? I've literally never heard somebody say, you know what, they don't drive crazy here.
The Pacific Northwest.
That is absolutely untrue.
Oh, I lived there for a long time, and y'all drive slow as fuck.
That's crazy. Flow is crazy.
And if it's such a pain being a jaywalker there, because if you step off the street, traffic stops in all directions, and stop being so polite, Jesus.
Right, New York will go around it.
It's in her name. She can't
I was
stop.
gonna say it's he. That's why I have my name.
So you're saying, Jim, we're around Polite's area, everybody drives 55, even if the speed limit's 65. Everyone uses their signals.
It's pretty much. It's like maybe not their signals, but it's frustratingly slow.
No, we're just respectful of the rules of the road.
Yeah, most of them are
Show
on
off.
bikes. They're not even driving. They bike everywhere. So that's why they don't know how to drive.
I wonder where the best drivers are. It ain't here.
It's nowhere. I'm telling you, Jim, it's nowhere. Everybody says the worst drivers are here.
Somewhere's got to have the best, though. Like, it just has to be. Like, there has to be a town that is better. Like, they might think it sucks, and they might suck, but they're still the best of all the suck.
Right. Well, because I would submit that New Yorkers, literally in the city of New York, are the best drivers because they have to be. And so, but nobody, I mean, I'm not sure that people outside of New York would agree with me.
I mean, as long as you only get grazed by a taxi cab instead of run over, that's a good thing.
That's okay. You didn't need the left tip anyway.
In this clip, we see the reaction of residents as they see remnants of the bridge wash up on the shores of their respective neighborhoods.
Riviera Beach residents tell 11 News they watched as some of the debris from the Francis Scott Key Bridge collapsed, floated in the water of the Patapsco River, and settled near the shoreline of their community.
We actually noticed it floating in as we were looking out over to see the wreckage.
Mark Ozarowski is a community member and monitor. Those investigating the Key Bridge collapse tell 11 News they began receiving calls about debris this past Sunday. According to the Maryland Department of the Environment, an inspector responded to Riviera Beach Sunday and confirmed the presence of wood debris with metal parts at 3 locations. The families living here are wondering what are the next steps at getting the debris removed.
We knew that we were going to have some kind of ripple effect, but we need to understand, we can't afford to, take care of this stuff. It's huge, right? The debris that's washing up is large. We don't have the means to deal with it. So we need some support.
They've been asking where to turn.
We've been talking to the Delegate Brian Chisholm's office. We've talked to the Army Corps of Engineers. We've talked to the Coast Guard Yard. So finally last night we got another phone number to call. And our beachkeeper liaison has called that number.
And they have other concerns as cleanup efforts continue.
Yeah, we're looking for removal, but there's also, some collateral damage that we feel is going to take place once they start dredging, under the harbor and all. What's the water going to be like? And, we don't really know.
That guy can't be a local if now he's concerned about what the harbor water is like.
Right. Like, does anybody, it's not swimmable. You don't fish and eat that. It's like,
They're having the first harbor swim this summer. They are the harbor's been getting steadily cleaner, and I work there and I walk around it and I see crabs and I see turtles and I see big fish. My coworker, who's an avid fisherman, saw cow-nosed rays in the harbor. There are dolphin right at the mouth of the harbor. I mean,
like Harbor East, like where harbor? Like where?
The inner,
really?
He saw the I've seen turtles by the Science Center, and he saw the rays right by right in front of Harbor Place for those who know from Harbor. So.
Yeah, I know. I used to work at Laureate there down in Harbor East, so I know.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of listeners and stuff.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Well, but even still, I just felt like he was just like, well, what? We can't deal with this wood. It's floating. I mean, the bridge collapsed. Yeah, but now we've got to deal with the stuff. It's floating and there's metal. I mean, what are we going to do? I don't know. It's just, because a bridge collapsed. right? It's just, oh, I just wanted to shake him.
I'm surprised. I've searched through a lot of these clips. I'm surprised I didn't find anybody who said, "Oh, these would make great pieces to build a pickup truck bed cover," because that would have been that would have been my first guess as to what they wanted to do with these pieces.
All right, so now I don't feel so bad.
I'm sorry.
Because my first thought was, let's sell these on eBay, make some money so you can pay to have it cleaned up.
That's what the shipping company is going to do. Instead of paying for it, they're going to take the pieces, they'll eBay them, and that's how they'll go ahead and pay for the damages. I see.
Has anybody seen the crooked meme about the bridge and with a picture from a scene from The Wire?
Oh yeah.
And it's totally not a real quote from The Wire. Like there's a meme that's gone around with from the second season when it was all about the port, and there's two longshoremen standing there, and it's like, well, that bridge is a symbol, a metaphor. It's never gonna go anywhere, just like the working class in this country. But it's not actually a line from the show.
If it was, it's a piss poor metaphor for both the bridge and the working class, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Of course, it wouldn't be American society or human nature without conspiracy theories. If you believe any of the conspiracy theories about what happened to the Francis Scott Key Bridge, then I can tell you two things. The first is that you're a fucking idiot, and the second is that I'm amazed you're still alive after listening to and abiding by the Joe Rogan diet. In this clip, we can see the various theories going on around not only the internet, but unfortunately, television as well.
We have to get to the bottom of this. A cargo ship hasn't taken out a bridge in decades. And a ship, as far as we can tell, has never sustained a power failure before a bridge knocked down. We need answers. Someone has to pay.
But what kind of questions do you want to see answered, Matt?
Well, as I said, you look at our critical infrastructure, and I'm one of these people that believes we've never fully come out of all the lockdowns and the COVID issues. And
this is still because of COVID lockdowns that basically didn't exist.
Look at whether you look at our air traffic controllers, where we have critical mission problems with filling slots. I'm no expert on what's going on the seas, but all I would say is that if you talk to employers in America, they'll tell you that filling slots with employees who aren't drug-addled is a very huge problem. So I'm making no specific charges here because we don't know.
Right.
But, anybody who flies in America can see that you're constantly waiting on a tarmac somewhere for some crew to show up. There's more maintenance problems than we've ever had, which I think are euphemisms for the problems.
We don't know the exact relation to cause and effect, but we do know this, that the world is much more interconnected, it's much more fragile than it ever has been, it's much more sophisticated, and it demands an ever greater level of expertise. But just at the time that we're building bigger and bigger and more dangerous ships, or we're assembling longer and longer trains that derail, like we saw at East Palestine with more and more toxic, we're not upping our game as far as increasing the level of expertise and especially, Eric, meritocracy. So we're not hiring necessarily the best people. We used to say we're going to hire the best people regardless of their color of their skin, their sexual orientation. Now we're saying, well, we may hire the best people, but more importantly, is their ideology or their ethnicity or their gender or their sexual orientation. And unfortunately,
by the way, ethnicity. If you're going to be a known racist, you should at least get the word ethnicity right. But anyway, ethnicity or ethnicity notwithstanding, no evidence whatsoever that DEI, diversity hiring, or any of this, hiring gay people, had anything to do with what happened in Baltimore. And then here's Laura Ingraham on Fox News defending the conspiracy theorists, saying, listen, it makes sense that we'd be getting all of these conspiracy theories.
But why is it that so many Americans following this collapse believe that the Biden team isn't telling us the whole truth? Axios today bemoaning this situation, writing that misinformation runs rampant after Baltimore bridge collapse.
True.
theories about whether hostile actors were involved, questions about economic terrorism, and even wilder speculation I won't go into tonight. But these ideas don't spring out of nowhere. They grow and they fester in situations where either the facts are hard to square with reality or where those in charge themselves have proven to be not credible.
We need more people with more expertise so things like this don't happen again. And where do we get those people who have all the expertise? I have no fucking idea. I, for one, know that it's certainly not me.
Yeah, it's a load of shit, man. Basically, things are collapsing because we don't spend any money on infrastructure. But his takeaway is because they're hiring queers. Yeah. Like, that's basically what he said, and it's
the blacks and the queers.
Yeah, you know, any like less than him.
Also, as if anybody who isn't a white male can't be the best at something. Yeah.
Also, the irony of Laura Ingraham talking about how conspiracy theories and misinformation is running rampant. Like, does she not know who she works for and the kind of show that she does?
She's like, these things don't come from nowhere. They come from us here at Fox News.
Well, even the question is leading. Why don't people trust the Biden administration? Like, oh yeah, why would I? Like,
it comes out of COVID lockdowns, something from 2020, and the fact that infrastructure. Remember Infrastructure Week in the former guy administration? Where'd that go?
When they tried to blame hostile actors, I wondered if they meant Sean Penn.
No, he's a white man. That's not who they meant.
Yeah, so
Yeah. Can I just start like yelling out different things when I'm mad? Like, damn, Watergate. You know?
No, that's good. You're absolutely right, Polite, because that's exactly what they do. They use any excuse to shout out their greatest hits, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're looking for a good exclamation, I've been enjoying Gadzooks lately. Gadzooks. People used to say that for reals.
I want that back in the repertoire things. Gadzooks.
If you use it, it is.
This is a tragic accident, and it had nothing to do with people's ethnicity.
Uh-oh, it's infectious. Look out.
I have not, I think that's the most Newsmax I've ever seen.
Yeah, I only watch it on Tom's show.
I mean, listen, I have to.
7-Eleven.
I have to figure. I have to figure out what's out there so I know what the hell I'm up against. It's in the title of my show versus the rest of the world. I have to know what the rest of the world is thinking, and unfortunately, we just watched it.
I think there's going to be a contraction of political interest. I think people are just, I don't know. I think people are hitting a breaking point.
Or the breaking point could mean more people get involved and hopefully want to put some of these fuckers out.
Jim, I read an article recently that's we're at peak sports right now, not because the sports necessarily isn't any better than it was a year ago, but because people just don't want it, are getting tired of listening to the same things over and over. They know who's going to be in the election. They know we got how long? 6 months of this. So they're enjoying Caitlin Clark and then the playoffs and the Rangers sweeping the Capitals. Good things like that.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, Jeff, you're gonna go ahead and put wagers on how some of these races are going. I know what your involvement in this is, Jeff. You're not fooling me.
You can't bet on politics in Maryland.
No.
It's not allowed. Not that I haven't looked.
God, the betting in sports is it's stomach turning for someone who's been around sports for my whole life. Like, to see the duplicitousness of the ownership as they jump both feet into this $1 billion industry. I don't know. Anyway,
After banning Pete Rose of all
That's
people.
it's another episode, Tom.
In conclusion, I take issue when people from outside Baltimore call us a shithole because we're only known for drugs and crime. That's wrong. We're a shithole because we never know when and how to finish our roads. If you look at historical photos and images of major cities like Baltimore in their early days, you look at them and reflect how much better they would be to travel on than Maryland roads during their never-ending state of improvement. Since the release of my joke about Maryland's official state flower, the black-eyed Susan, sounding like a domestic violence victim, I've heard tell that Maryland officials are now contemplating a change to the official state flower, making it the trench plate they put in the road during road work. But as much as I abhor travel, traveling by car and train are still among my favorite methods. I have more freedom, as I often feel constricted by airlines, their boarding procedures, and ticket prices. Unless absolutely necessary, I am still motivated to travel by road and rail, not by plane. In fact, I won't travel by plane unless the airline's Wi-Fi unblocks porn websites. And on that note, that's our show. I want to thank Jeff Hysen, Gina Brown, Polite Kitty, and Jim Meyer.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
But before we go, my final thought. Welcome to the 5th installment of our new series, Are You Better Off Now Than 4 Years Ago? If this is your first time listening to this podcast since I started this segment, or your first time listening to this show, period, then spoiler alert, the answer has been, and will always be, yes. At this time 4 years ago, there were 3.2 million cases of the coronavirus worldwide and 239,000 deaths, with the United States making up 1/3 of those cases, along with 65,000 plus deaths. Worldwide, more than 1 million people recovered from COVID in numbers provided by Johns Hopkins and the World Health Organization. Remember, this was after then President Trump had said the number of cases would go from 15 to 0. 4 years ago today, having just left the month of April with 14.4% of the country unemployed, beating the rate caused by the Great Recession of 2008, the May numbers would not improve that much, as you will hear in future installments of this segment. As far as fuel prices go, much of the country saw gasoline for under $2 a gallon after a crash of the price of crude oil and the price of a barrel of oil going into negative territory for the first time. While gas prices are significantly higher today than when they were 4 years ago, a seeming downside, just keep one thing in mind. 4 years ago today, less fuel was being consumed, less demand, because nobody was going anywhere because we were just going under lockdown for a contagious and severe respiratory virus. In short, are we better off today than we were 4 years ago? In case you need to be reminded, which some of you do, then the answer is yes. Good night. This episode was written and hosted by Tom Myers with panelists Jeff Hysen, Gina Brown, Polite Kitty, and guest Jim Meyer. Theme music composed and arranged by Jeroen van den Hurck. Executive producers Tom Myers, Matt Connarton for ipmNation, and Eddie Carson for Odyssey Radio. Please leave a 5-star rating and a positive review on Apple Podcasts, and don't forget to support the Patreon at patreon.com/Tom Myers for ad-free episodes, extended episodes, and bonus clips. Thank you for listening, and please visit tommyers.us.